Androgenetic alopecia. Do you know what it is? Do you have it? Are you suffering from hair loss? Maybe your hair is falling out on the sides, in the middle, or straight down the middle. It's just getting super thin and you don't know why. And no matter what you do, you cannot get your hair to grow back. In this video, we're going to talk about the causes of all of those situations. If you want to know how to increase your hair growth, how to fight your alopecia, whatever form of it you may have, and how to get your hair growing really fast, then keep watching. Hey girl, so before we get started, girl, make sure you go ahead and subscribe here to my channel, and once you subscribe, be sure to click that bell notification so you're notified every single time I post another video. So androgenetic alopecia, this is something that haunts a lot of us, and a lot of us don't even know what it is. We just know that we're experiencing hair loss. So let's hop right into this. What is androgenetic alopecia? Well, first let's talk about androgens. These are a group of hormones that play a role in the male traits of reproductive activity. Present in both males and females, these androgen receptors are located in front and in the middle of the scalp in males and down the middle of the scalp in women. What is traction alopecia? Traction alopecia is a form of hair loss which mechanical damage to the hair follicle is caused by repeated tension or pulling. So a good example of traction alopecia would be like braids, weaves, tight ponytails, anything that you're doing that causes a whole lot of tension on your hair. Even like with this bun that I have in my head, if I had it pulled too tight repetitively, then I would give myself traction alopecia. Let's get into alopecia and the different diagnoses, because there are so many different forms of alopecia, and at any time if you want me to touch on any of these certain types of alopecia because you think you may have one of these and not the two that I'm talking about, that was four, and not the two that I'm talking about in this video, then make sure you leave me some comments below and let me know which one of these you want to get to next. Now, as you have an overindulgence of hormones in the body, that could be from a lot of different things. It could be hereditary. It could also be the different things that you're eating and ingesting in your body that have an overabundance of unnatural hormones in the body. They can directly affect the way that your hair grows and result in your hair thinning and falling out. Most of us get caught up in different products and different hair routines without understanding our hair's natural growth cycle. Your hair grows in 3 phases. If you do not really come familiar with these 3 phases of hair growth, it will be very hard for you to pin down hair growth in your everyday life. Because the phases are shortened, this leads to shallow follicles and thinner fibers over time. The growth phases are shortened, then the hair cannot do everything it needs to do. The follicle could not be full all the way. The clubs are not produced at the way that they need to be produced. So you end up with a scalp that looks like this, and that is what alopecia is. Stimulating the alogen phase of hair growth prolongs the alogen phase and increases the metabolism in the cells, aiding in hair growth and thickening of the hair shaft. So in this picture you can see this is more so a picture of somebody who has traction alopecia. So the light does a lot for you, because if you have traction alopecia and it's not really dead to the follicle just because it was just tugging and pulling that you were doing, most likely you do still have some type of life within the cell. It's kind of give a shock to those dead or dormant cells, saying,
hey girl, wake up girl, we time to go girl, because she tired of being bald head skinny little girl with no hair on the middle of the sides girl.
Increase the metabolism of the hair growth cells inside of the follicle, aiding in your hair growth. Improve the diameter of the actual hair shaft, so your hair will actually get thicker because the hair has more the cells have more metabolism to move at a faster rate, and you can move through the hair growth phases like you're supposed to, so your hair can complete its job entirely. Okay, so this is absolutely amazing. It's really important that you learn the structure of your hair and the structure of the scalp. And remember, I taught you guys in videos before, over manipulation is killing our hair. It really is, because when we're doing all of these braided styles, if your braids feel too tight, my love, they're too tight, and you're giving yourself traction alopecia, there are loads of different forms of alopecia, and they all come from different forms. Now, the most common type that we know of, like I said, is traction alopecia, and then the one where we're talking about today. But there are many different forms that we all give ourselves unknowingly, trying a lot of different products and things of that nature. Like I said, I want everybody to get into knowing their hair, knowing the 3 phases of growth. And if you know the 3 phases of growth, along with your porosity and your density, you can really have long and beautiful hair. I really hope all of that made sense to you guys. For everybody who's ever sent me a message about any balding problems, whether it was from rice water or anything like that, any problems with alopecia or anything like that, let me know in the comments below, because we are doing a part 2 really fast. But before I get to the part 2, because there are so many different forms of alopecia, I don't want to touch on the forms of alopecia that you guys don't have. Wash your hair, girl. Stop keeping them tight ass braids, girl. Because most of the diseases that we think are hereditary are actually not that hereditary, but actually in reality it's just the habits that we have, that we pass down from generation to generation. We take these habits on. Sometimes we have the same issues that remain generational, but that does not always mean that different issues that you are running into are hereditary, like different forms of alopecia. Let's talk about that. If you haven't done so already, make sure you subscribe to my website, www.sinsmith.guru. That's sinsmith.guru, so that way we stay connected with everything. And if you get confused about anything that I say, I make a conscious effort to have a written template for you. And if you join the Guru one-on-one for $9.99 a month, we go really in depth. I'm like your own personal at home stylist, herbalist, and trichologist. So let's get right into this. Number 1, there are 3 main causes that most women are running into when it comes to the most common form of alopecia, which is traction alopecia. Traction alopecia comes from different damage that we put on the follicle, but at the end of the day, all forms of alopecia is a different form of either the follicle being weakened or the follicle being permanently scarred, which will result in you not being able to grow hair out of that follicle, which will result in baldness. But instead of us playing defense all the time, we should play offense, because prevention is number 1 and then retention is number 2. We have to first be honest and realize what things that we've done that led us to the place that we're currently at today. So number 1, scarring. How is scarring caused? Scarring is caused from the smallest things that we think, I should say, the things that we think are small. And this has started from childhood for most of us. Most of us wear really tight braided hairstyles to the point you will go get your hair done, and if the braids are too tight, you would just be like,
girl, take a Tylenol.
Or your stylist or braider would say,
girl, take a Tylenol when you get home, that's okay.
We so many times disconnect our scalp from the rest of our body. Our body is set up to send a signal. So if you get braids and it's too tight and you get bumps, those are different signals that your body is telling you, like,
hey girl, you might want to take this out. This is causing a whole bunch of stress for me. I ain't gonna be able to hold on that long. And in a minute we're gonna be bald.
Understand that each person has about 100,000 follicles on their scalp, and each follicle, depending on the density of your hair, can have anywhere from 1 to 4 follicles. So please understand that when you have tight braids in your head and things of that nature, and it hurts and you get little bumps, even if the hair grows back, it's gonna grow back thinner. And over time, the older you get, your body is losing different vital nutrients that it needs. If we are constantly doing different styles that cause scarring and different things of that nature, different pressure to the follicle, then eventually the hair will grow back thinner, more transparent, and sometimes it just may not grow back at all. And then if you keep doing these things long term, it will scar the follicle permanently. Once the follicle is scarred permanently, it's almost impossible for you to bring it back. Okay, so scarring is number 1. Number 2, weakened hair follicles. Now, weakened hair follicles, this is a pretty big one because a lot of us kind of already get weakened hair follicles. Anything that breaks down the bonds within the hair shaft, anything that is taking away that protein that is linked to the disulfide bond, which is what makes your hair curly in the first place, anything that you put on the hair to pull off that protein that's making your hair curly weakens the hair. And once you weaken the hair and once you weaken the follicle, and this is the thing, even if you base the follicle with a protective cream, it's still a chemical and it will still weaken the follicle. Please understand that if your texture is changed to the root, some of the product just a little bit,
just little stain, just little bit,
and that's something that you really need to take into consideration. No matter what chemical you are putting on the hair, it will weaken the follicle. So airflow, most of the main reason that a lot of us are not experiencing the type of hair growth that we need is because oxygen cannot get to the follicle. And this is how it goes. Our hair grows out of a sac called a follicle. This hair comes up and out and through. Please understand that there is also a sebaceous gland and a sweat gland inside of your hair follicle. So your body is a well-oiled and well-equipped machine. So if there is blockage from heavy oils and heavy butters that are very high on the comedogenic scale, comedogenic simply means a product's ability to block the follicle. That is it, the follicles or the pores on the face. So if you are constantly blocking the scalp full of heavy butters and heavy oils high on the comedogenic scale, then you end up blocking the airflow and your body cannot do what it needs to do. In the new ebook that I'm working on right now, I've been working on it for months, I break down skin cell turnover like scientifically really in depth, just so you can understand exactly what's going on. Because if you can understand the natural cycle that your scalp is going through every 28 days, you will understand why it is so vitally important to make sure your scalp is clean. Inflammation. Now, inflammation is gonna come basically from the last couple of things that I told you not being into play, because inflammation is something that most people are dealing with on a regular basis. The same way that you would have inflammation in your gums if you went a whole month without brushing your teeth or flossing. The same way that you would have inflammation in different parts of your body if you didn't remove bacteria from it. Your scalp is no different. For whatever reason, I don't know what had happened and stuff, but somebody told us that the skin on our scalp did not need to be exfoliated and treated like the rest of our body. My loves, that cannot be further from the truth. It is imperative that you make sure you are cleansing the scalp. You're not going months without washing your hair because you have a sebaceous gland in the scalp, and inside of the sebaceous gland your body lets off something.
And I already have ebooks, so if you want to know exactly what all of everything is, click the links below, okay? But
your body secretes something, right, naturally, that God put in there, and what this secretion does, it eats away at all of the extra bacteria and things of that nature. But if it is not cleansed away, it transitions into yeast, and a lot of women have yeast infections in the scalp
and don't even know it.
This is why Monistat and things of that nature took off, because Monistat is a yeast infection cream, and most women have yeast infections in their scalp, especially, and this isn't to be offensive, it's just being real. The women who are trying out Monistat sometimes are the same women who would keep weaves in their hair for 3-4 months, or braids in their hair too long, or don't wash their hair for months at a time. These are things that you need to take into consideration. Yeast building up on the scalp is real. You can really have a yeast infection within the hair follicle, and unknowingly a very large amount of the Black community in this whole Team Natural thing have this type of infection. In closing, I don't want this to be a really long drawn out video because I have a podcast that's going with this. Instead of us playing this whole hair care game from a state of defense constantly, why don't we play from offense, okay? Prevention is step 1. Retention is step 2. But we're not even doing any type of prevention. All we're thinking about is length retention. But let's go to prevention. Let's follow the natural rhythm of our body and our natural hair growth system and our skin cell turnover cycle, because when you do these things, you get results. Here on the screen, you're going to see a couple of different women that are a part of the Guru 101, and you will also see a couple of people who are just here on my channel that have taken some of the pointers that I give. So what is the worst that can happen? I'm not telling you to buy anything extra. I'm telling you to stop
using all of the 50 million things that you already bought
and to stick with the science and follow your body. To pull out a journal, not for me, just go get a journal from the dollar store and pay attention to your body. What time of the month do you notice flakes in your scalp the most? What time of the month are you noticing shedding? Are your emotions attached to the way that you're feeling? These are all things that you need to write down and take into consideration to really start to track your body. I need you to trim every 8 to 10 weeks. Everyone is so afraid of trimming, but you guys, please understand that the main reason why most women cannot retain length is because your hair is alive. A lot of people think that your hair is not alive. Your hair is alive. Social media has you confused. When somebody says that your hair is dead, what they really mean is the cells that live within the hair shaft are dead. What do I mean by that? When your hair comes through the scalp, when it pierces through the skin, the cells die off. Because if the cells within your hair shaft, Sugarfoot, did not die off when you got a haircut, the pain will be equivalent to somebody cutting one of your fingers off. So for you to get a trim and stuff, God kind of had to set things up to make sure that the nerves in your hair died when they came out. But your hair still has a cuticle that opens and closes. Your hair still has an inner cortex and so many other places in the hair shaft that are very alive, operating, and very well. Please know and understand that when someone says that the hair is dead, they mean that the nerve cells within the hair shaft are dead, but every piece of your body is living, breathing, and operational. Please know that. If you put braids in your head, if you get your hair done and you feel like you need to go pop a Tylenol just to have them in your head, you need to take them out immediately. Pain is a signal that your body sends to your brain to let you know that there is something wrong, and if you don't fix it, it's
about to pop off.
That is how it goes. That is what happens when you get braids and it hurts. So all it is,
ooh girl, you go home and you go take a nap and it'll be okay.
no, absolutely not. When the pain subsides, that nerve, that follicle that was
holding on for dear life was
like, I don't even care no more, whatever.
That's what happened, girl. And even if it doesn't fall out that time, that follicle is getting weaker and weaker and weaker over time. That is how the human body works, my love. Set a limit to the amount of time that you allow styles to stay in your head. Set a limit to the amount of time that you go without washing your hair. Set a limit to the amount of products that you are using and putting in your head. And I need you to set a limit to the amount of oils and butters and things of that nature that you are constantly putting on the scalp. I need you to get a routine and stick to it. And I love you guys so much. I really hope this video made sense. If you have any questions or comments, make sure you leave them in the comments below. And until my next video, bye girl. Wash your hair, girl. Stop keeping them tight ass braids in your hair, girl. And Google stuff on your own, girl. Take a look. It's in a book. It's time for reading Rainbow in 2021.